So the first topic that we have this morning is the local and international practices in building new literacies. So the first best practice that we have here is that we need to give students direct instruction in decoding and comprehension strategies that promotes independent reading. So the practices in developing new literacies can be taught by teachers and can be learned by both teachers and students. It is important for students to learn from direct instructions and with simpler words. In that way, they will be able to comprehend better. Thus, this promotes and exercise independent reading. In the context of special education, we all know that students with ADHD have a very short attention span. So if you can still remember the pedagogies in handling students with ADHD, which was kanang report sa group ni Ernally sa SNED 5 na to nga subject, we grasp the information that if they are not provided with simpler words in instructions, there is a very big possibility that these students cannot finish their activity. Moreover, this practice allows us teachers to teach these students in being independent not just in classes but also in the real world. For instance, they can surf different social media sites, and because we taught them different effective comprehension strategies, they will be able to understand the essential meaning of what they saw in the internet without the help of their elder sisters or parents. With this being said, ma-practice na nila ang ilang pagka-media literate individuals. So, how are we going to implement this practice sa classroom? So if we can still remember during our elementary days, we have a reading comprehension activity which is pabasahon ta sa ato ang teachers og story, and then the teacher would give us a set of questions for us to answer if kanang nakasabot ba gyud ta sa ato ang gibasa. Di ba, if you can still remember kanang mag alphabetical jud na nga kanang sige bitan Arias una ang murid kay Ayman una murid mo ato ko mo gawas ko kay murid ko dito, and then mag one on one jud sa teacher ba kinsay naka-remember ana if nakasulay ka ana, if wala ka nakasulay, or if naka-remember ka, if wala ka naka-remember kanang chat sa chat box kung unsa ang imong na kuan ana. Hala, kung dili maka-chat ha, basin wa naminaw ha. Sige ha. So, bitaw ka ng, on a serious note, according to DepEd Order number 45 of 2002, which is entitled the Reading Literacy Program in the Elementary Schools, states that one of the main thrusts of the 2002 Basic Education Curriculum, or BEC, is to ensure that every child is a successful reader at the end of grade 3. So, concomitant to this trust, the Department of Education shall enforce the policy every child a reader, beginning school year 2002 to 2003. It is expected that no pupil will be promoted to the next higher grade unless he or she manifests mastery of the basic literacy skills in a particular grade level. All possible means of assistance and encouragement shall be extended to enable the child to read. So, sa mga ni-chat sa chat box, thank you. And then, keep your chat coming sa chat box. And then, so much for that. Let's move forward to the next one, which is balancing teacher and student led discussions. So it is really important that teachers will give students the opportunity to discuss in a class, such as reporting. In that way, students will be able to develop their speaking skills that would most likely be a big leap in being an effective teacher. Pero dili lang ni para kay sa mga prospective teachers lang ha. This will also work sa tanang students. If ever your teacher would let you report, take it as an opportunity to grow as a speaker or as a reporter. Kay wata kay baw basin dili ni mao ang field nga ato ang gitahak, like basin dili ta for special education, basin kanang reporter ta or anchor sa or kanang sa ABS-CBN, CNN, GMA, like mga inana, or basin ka ng radio broadcaster ka sa Bumbo Radio or sa asa nga station nya kanang mo ma-amaze ang kanang listeners nimo nga uy unsa di background ani ni asa yun siya nag-school ana dayon nya mo kanang like for example kanang himuan dayon og kanang documentary ang kanang or kanang ang imong life story kay i-share niya kanang maka-remember ka nga ay bitaw sa kanang when I was still in high school or when I was still in senior high or when I was still in college kanang for example kanang si Miss A gyud to kanang kanang kami ang mo report, and then or si Miss Matet ba or si Sir Renan maka recall mo ba kung kinsa ang kanang ni-push ninyo nga kanang mahimo mong kanang better reporters, better speakers, something like that. So, mo na ma-look back nato kung unsa ang nadangat nato, kung unsa ang kanang effect sa atong gibuhat karon. So, more to that, this practice would also allow students to be critical thinkers, researchers, keen and careful, especially if the students will look for links para sa like sa ilang content. Reporting is also a great way in developing trust in oneself. Thus, this practice will be a great help in developing your core to be a social, emotional, literate person. On the other end, teacher and student led discussions should be balanced because a student's reporting is not just the only basis of knowing their strengths and weaknesses. Mo agree mo ana nga dili ra ang reporting ang kanang basis, 'di ba? Naman sad tay aside sa reporting, naman sad tay mga performance tasks or kanang quizzes, something like that. And then the next one the next practice is balancing direct instructions, guided instructions, and independent learning. So, students knowing the different strategies in learning is a great way in developing the skill set of being an effective researcher, which makes a student a helpful asset in developing new literacies. With balancing direct instruction, guided instructions, and independent learning, students will know as to what is the best strategy that would help them learn. This can be related to social emotional literacy, where students will be able to know themselves better. On the other end, this practice helps in developing new literacies in a way that students know how to learn independently since their teachers allow them. This practice should be balanced and one shouldn't be ahead nor behind from one another.
So, good morning once again. So, here are the remaining local and international practices. And one of this is the use of variety of assessment techniques to inform instruction. So, we are already aware as students that assessment is very essential element to education and developing new literacies, and that these techniques is intended to meet and assess students and somehow help new literacies be implemented in such way that, for example, teachers integrate through discussion, encouraging learner from experiences that afterwards may ask students to create outreach programs, seminars, entails about financial issues and any related topics to reach awareness. So moreover, it is an effective teaching. These techniques is an effective teaching, rather, to develop students' academic performance and to become independent, strategic learner, and financially literate one in the near future. So the challenges that may under this practice could be teachers' lack of training and knowledge, including teachers' issues towards learners, that may be a reason for for hindrances and barriers to uphold students' preferences. So the last practice is to build a whole-less community that emphasizes important concepts and build background knowledge. So again, this is also necessary to make students to know the concept of feel being belong, included, and valued in an inner circle or within a classroom setting. That this practice may vary that helps students to grow not just academically, but multicultural or globally literate one, in which the teacher promotes through integrating activities. So, for example, the teacher would ask for the whole cooperation of the class to plan and to organize that involves celebrating different cultural festivals. So, by this practice, it really supports the implementation of new literacies to students. And the challenges that may be under these techniques is a language barrier which truly exists between a circle because of some misunderstanding and misinterpretations between teachers and students. So, a specific evidence that this practice is indeed best is through celebrating United Nations, or we call it here in the Philippines UN. So where students respect, unites, and value the existence of everybody, no matter the races, gender those people are. So let's move on to the next topic, and thank you for listening.
Good morning, everyone. I am one of the reporters about the challenges of integrating 21st century skills in the Philippines. So let's start. The first challenge is the rural urban divide. So, the quality and access to education is way better in urban compared in rural as they are faced with shortage of teachers, supplies and facilities. So the integration of the 21st century skills in the Philippines is very challenging for us, especially for the rural areas, because there is less opportunity to accomplish or to receive the basic educational support system. And because of that, the students cannot achieve the full quality of education that they deserve. Integration of 21st century skills is important also for the learners in order to thrive in today's world. As what I've mentioned earlier, rural areas are facing with the shortage of teachers, supplies, and facilities. Example for these are computer labs and libraries, which we can gain information about the happenings in the world. And it is clearly happening until now nga there are schools na wala pay mga facilities, especially sa mga remote localities from where students have had to walk for kilometers or cross rivers to the nearest school. Okay, do you guys get my point? I hope yes. Well, anyways, in every place there are advantages and disadvantages in all forms. In addition to this, in addition to this, the factors that affects the rural urban divide is about the income gap, wherein its broad definition is that it is the standard of living difference between rich and the poor. Income gap has long been a fundamental issue in the Philippine education. Okay, and students from rich families based in the cities and some highly urbanized municipalities have more access to usually private and expensive schools, while those from poor families are plagued by a lack of classrooms and teachers, and almost inaccessible public schools with limited resources that teachers themselves are often forced to provide. So, in conclusion for this, the rural urban divide greatly affects the implementation of 21st century skills, and income gap is a factor that holds a powerful role in education as well as the rest of the country.
So second is lack of learning materials infrastructure, and manpower. So pre-pandemic, we are already experiencing these problems such as lack of books, wherein students have to share, crowded classrooms, and even brain drain. So teachers are given free hand to implement out-of-the-box strategies, meaning teachers have the chance to use their own strategy upon teaching. So the common challenge here is ang teachers mao'y mag-provide og mga modules. For example, kulang ang resources, kulang ang learning materials na dili pasigo. So mahulog ang teacher mao ang mag-provide kung unsay kulang nga kinahanglan sa usa ka student. So before pandemic happened, common problem na ang lacking of classrooms. So sa usa ka classroom daghan man gyud og students, mao na ang challenge sa usa ka teacher kung unsaon niya pag-deal ang lain-lain nga bata kay every student has different personalities baya. So mao na depende ra pud na sa gamiton nga teaching strategy sa usa ka teacher aron smooth ra while nag-discuss, smooth ra while nag-explain sa mao nga lesson. So common nga challenge pud karon ang kakulangan sa resources such as kaning module. So ang nahitabo karon ang mga estudyante, so nag-take turn sila sa module, nagamit sila o magpuli-puli sila sa module. So for example, magamit ang usa, then mupuli ang uban nga classmates, so dili sila allowed nga mosuwat sa module kay gamiton pa man sa lain. So the third one is innovative ways of teaching. The learners of today are called digital natives, meaning those who are born during the rise of technology, while most teachers are called digital immigrants, or those born before the rise of technology. So this difference must be bridged so that students will won't get bored in learning as they prefer interactive ones. So this challenges the teachers to not stick to the traditional means and venture out of innovative ways. So many teachers should consider the technology we have now interactive experience, and it also involves creativity of a teacher upon handling such as tablet, computers, and mobile devices of every students. In order for them to offer interactive experience, and it also involves creativity of a teacher upon handling the students.
Funds allocation. It is setting aside a certain amount of money for an expense. And since Philippines has one of the lowest funds allocation in education among the Asian countries, so school funding is a significant concern that has direct consequences for student achievement. Lower student performance is seen in schools with limited budgets, which are also unable to provide small classes and quality services. And when the government cut their per pupil funding here in the Philippines, they also reduce the amount of educators they employ. As a natural consequences of this technique, the instructors are in charge of larger groups, which means that teacher in low-income schools, on the other hand, can teach classes of up to 48 students. Philippines have a poor education systems also, because according to studies and fact-finding commissions, the poor quality of education is due to a lack of government funding for our education, poor teacher quality, poor school management, poor school facilities such as laboratories and libraries, poor learning environments, and the content of the curriculum. I can say that only if our country allocated more funds to education, I am confident that we will have or achieve a better learning outcomes, because we Filipinos are hardworking, competent, and intelligent.
Insufficient professional development. Professional development is the strategy schools and school districts use to ensure that educators continue to strengthen their practice throughout their career. Teachers in fragile and crisis contexts face enormous barriers to quality professional development. There are still teachers who still teach the traditional way of learning. In integrating the 21st century skills, the teacher needs to learn new strategies and techniques in teaching. In this case, the integration of 21st century skills was challenged because of the insufficient professional development. According to my research about professional development, it refers to instructors developing and improving their skills to better meet the needs of their students. However, there are many factors that make professional development insufficient, such as their working environment. How, the, how does the insufficient professional development affect in integrating the 21st century skills? Well, clearly, the effect on this is into the students' learning. 21st century skills are knowledge that we can use in order to fit in the world, as well as to survive for whatever battle that may come. It will be forever with us, thus, we need teachers to guide us. Professional development to all can benefit us. Meeting the individual needs of every student can be an overwhelming job, but one that's expected and challenging. This type of professional development offers support for teachers as they group and manage data, work with students on varying levels and creating and managing levels. Thank you for listening. That's all.